DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to INCRadio Florida. I'm one of your hosts this morning, Brother Robert Tapalis, coming to you here on a bright, sunny, and absolutely summer-like morning here, Saturday morning in Florida. It's, of course, Saturday, the 28th of June. It's about 9:31, 9:32 in the morning here. But even though it's that early in the morning in Florida, as we all know, it's already starting to get steamy. But before we jump to that, I wanted to see if we could do some greetings for our international audience. And actually, we're going to switch it up and toss this over to Sister Joy. Good morning, Sister Joy. Would you mind greeting our international audience while you're there in the happiest place on earth here in Florida, Orlando, Florida? Good morning.
Florida it is. Good morning. Thank you, Brother Robert. Good evening. Guten Morgen. Buenos dias. Magandang umaga. Here is my American, my Philam. That might be the best. Maybe I could read it better. I'll be better prepared next time for that. But welcome, because we do have such a broad spread of viewers. And that when I say broad, that's not just here on the sunny side up here of Florida. That's right. Everywhere, right? We have a very broad spread of viewers internationally. So thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you. So whether you are in the Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, the Eastern, thank you so much for joining us, especially to our those of you who are tuning in from the Philippines, because we know it's quite late over there. So thank you again for joining us. We're so delighted to hear from all of you. We do have a hot topic today. And
I like that,
yeah,
Sister Joy.
like that, right?
I like that. That's that mommy dad humor.
There it is.
It
I'm a petty gal.
Mommy dad jokes.
What can I say? So if you are up for joining us, if you are tuning in with us, we want to hear from you. First of all, where are you from? And join us in the conversation, because again, like I said, it is a hot topic. So we want to hear from you. So ready to dive in, ready to cool off.
And for sure, Sister Joy, we want to solicit as much input from our audience, because we have a pretty bright set of viewers here in Florida. A lot of legacy Floridians who've lived here for years. I know you're flow grown here as well, and one of our wonderful co-hosts here as well, who's joining us this morning, Sister Audrey. Good morning, Sister Audrey from Tampa, and you're basically a flow grown. I think there's a threshold if after so many years you're just considered Florida grown at this point, who've lived here.
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm New York born, but Florida raised. Florida raised and glazed.
Oh, I like it.
We're just full of mommy dad jokes today.
It's exposure to your peer group at this point in your life.
Yes.
When you're surrounded by it.
Yeah, I know. Couple moms that can't help it. But, and the thing is, today we're going to be talking about a topic that's going to be, I think, really, really familiar to the both of you and also to our audience. We're going to be talking about how is it you survive, or how do you stay cool here in the Sunshine State? And we want to ask our viewers, please, because we know that you guys have got a ton of suggestions, throw in the chat. What are your specific hacks for trying to stay cool here in Florida and survive these summer months? And no, staying inside your air-conditioned home is not a hack.
Definitely.
Okay, so we need hacks for people who actually venture outside.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's not from the front door to your car, because know that's also a journey.
Yes,
it can be. But that's definitely not what we're discussing today.
No. Today's topic, and Kuya, if you could put us in thumbnail mode, please, we'd appreciate that. Today's topic is cooling down in the Sunshine State, and that's a really broad statement to describe all of the different hacks that are available to us that we're going to be covering today that help not only us as residents here, but more importantly for our friends who are coming to visit, because for some reason, Sister Joy, Sister Audrey, I don't know why, people choose to come to Florida during the hottest months of the year. And I think a lot of that's summer
Fascinating.
vacation,
I mean,
right?
until this day, yes,
I don't get it.
I'm blown away. I really am. This is one of the hottest seasons, and to see families come down, I mean, that's my hat goes off to you.
It was
Yeah.
still early May, and we went to a theme park, and I mean, you would think that it would still be cool. There were some pockets of breeze, but come noon and
Yeah.
after, it was tough. It was really rough.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about all of the specific things around timing. If
Mhm.
you are coming here during the summer, how is it that you can not end up dehydrating yourself?
Oh, yes.
What are the best times to go out? And my hack is I'm leaving the state tomorrow. I'm flying way up north to our neighbors up there in Canada. But while we're here
That's not
in
even
the Sunshine
here in the
State,
US.
yeah, exactly. What
That's your
if
hack.
you happen to find yourself here in Florida, then let's talk about what's a Florida summer like. I mean, a Florida summer is heat, it's humidity, it's afternoon
Yes.
thunderstorms,
Mhm.
and we cannot talk about summer unless we're talking about bugs.
You got it.
Because
Mm.
Those
people
are
talk about
definitely the fantastic summer of
gators. Yeah,
Florida.
yeah, we're famous for not only our bugs, but for the size of our bugs as well.
Oh, yes.
And
Those little
variety.
and the variety, the
Oh,
love bugs in that spring and the summertime, and when
oh,
they start coming out. If you've never seen one, I never even knew what a love bug was until I moved here to Florida.
you'll learn quickly.
Oh, you do. Just
You do.
driving from here to your neck of the woods there in Orlando, the
Yes.
entire front grill of my car is covered in love bugs. But let's jump right in and talk about what are the specifics about the Florida heat. Because if you're coming to Florida in the summer, these
Mhm.
are the four things that you're going to have to contend with. So we're going to talk about how are you going to survive these four things. Well, let's start by talking about how is summer different here than it is in other states, right?
Mhm.
Or other places. So we talk about climate. The average climate here in the summer is 90 to 95. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize this. In Florida, it is extremely rare. In fact, in the 10 years I've lived here, it hasn't, where the air temperature actually exceeds 100 degrees. When we were living in California, we lived in on the West Coast, and then we moved into more inland area. We have
Mhm.
friends that live in Vegas. I lived in Texas
Mhm.
for a few years. The temperatures, the air temperature, when you look at
Mhm.
your thermostat, were like 105,
Oh,
104
wow.
degrees.
Wow.
That's the air temperature,
Triple
right?
digit. Yeah.
Yeah, surface temperature. In Florida, it may feel like it's 1,000 degrees outside
Yes.
as your skin is melting off.
Mhm. Yes.
But if you actually look at the climate
Mhm.
on like a weather app or something, the surface temp or the air temp very rarely goes above 96, 97 degrees. It's like somehow they know there's a limit to not.
It's a Florida limit. You're like,
Florida
it's
knows
only
we're not going.
86 degrees, but it's
It feels like
scorching.
it's 1,000.
Yeah.
And
It's
of course, the culprit is humidity.
Mhm.
Humidity is the culprit. I was talking about this with a couple of coworkers, yes, yesterday or the day before, and I'd realized the difference between you always hear heat being a dry heat, right? People live in Arizona, people live in Texas, Las Vegas, the desert areas of California. They always talk about it being a dry heat. And I never knew like what does that even mean? Like it's hot.
It's
I've
like oven hot.
yeah, it's oven. You
Yeah,
can
like it hurts, like it's almost like a needle type feeling,
Yeah.
but Florida heat is I can't breathe and my
it's
back is wet.
And I think that's what gets most, especially if you're planning a visit, that humidity, please do prepare for it, because
Mhm.
it can mask, I mean, the true heat of things. What is going on with me? It's hot, but it's
Mhm.
not hot. And like you said, it's the weight of that heat, and then you're sweating at the same time. What is this?
well, what I found out was that with dry heat
Mhm.
specifically, if you're in a climate where the heat is dry, and let's say it's 95 degrees,
Mhm.
if you are under a shade, then you actually don't feel the heat. You literally are shielded and protected because you're under the shade, right? Like under an awning or under a tree,
Mhm.
because the heat's dry, the air itself is dry. But here in Florida, you can try to seek all the shelter you want.
You can't escape.
115 degrees, but because the humidity is so high that you could be thinking you're escaping the heat by being under a tree, and that air just follows you in there. So that's the difference. The dry heat is that you can escape from it by getting away from the sun. But here, humidity is what gets you. It's at 90% humidity plus, and then the heat index. This is what we're talking about, where it feels like it's 115, 120 degrees, even though the air temperature itself may only be about 90. We're feeling like it's 115, 120, and that's when it gets really, really dangerous. Especially if you are outside doing your lawn, you're doing some
Mhm.
landscaping,
Mm.
that's maybe a good time to consider paying a professional
Oh yeah.
to do your lawn during the months of June through September. And it's pretty seasonal. Our heat's here is pretty seasonal, but
It is.
Sister Audrey just brought up it's May to September is considered peak heat, right?
Mhm.
And have you guys seen those memes that are out there about Florida that say Florida only has like the different levels of like we don't have winter, we have
Like
like
2 seasons.
yeah, we
Hot
have
and hotter.
yeah, we have hot, hotter, and why do I live here hot? And those are the three seasons in Florida. And the hottest, the why do I live here hot season is May through September. And that's when it's peak season. And of course, you want to add insult to injury. Let's throw in a hurricane
There
season while
you
we're at it,
go. That's so
right?
nice.
We just talked about
Mhm.
uh, preparing for hurricanes a couple of episodes ago. And I really, really emphasize if you're here, if you're visiting, go
Mhm.
back and watch that episode. So this way you're fully prepared for it. So those are the months that we're dealing with, May through September, which
Mhm.
being June, we are right in the middle of it.
Mhm. Beginning.
Um,
I
yeah.
know. We've just started.
Oh, why are you taking it away?
Get started.
I wanted to say we're in the middle of it because that meant it's all downhill from here. But I guess not. When we talk about uh, things that we want to protect ourselves from, of course, health and safety, super important,
Mhm.
especially if you're coming from out of state and you're visiting Florida, because I find often tourists underestimate
Mhm.
the power of the heat, the sun, and the humidity here in Florida.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's when you start to suffer from heat related illnesses like heat
Mhm.
exhaustion and heat stroke symptoms. And
Mhm.
let's just take a quick look at like what are some of the things you want to look out for, because if you're here and you guys are visiting and you're not familiar with it, you could be sitting out in the sun and baking and not realizing you're going
Yes.
through these two episodes, right? So you've got heat exhaustion, which is the lesser of the two, if anything, and then heat stroke, of course, is somebody better call 911. But
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, if you've got heat exhaustion, you're going to be sweating heavily. Muscles are going to start to cramp up if you're walking. You're going to probably feel a little nauseous, and you're going to have some dizziness and some headaches. Your skin's going to feel cool and clammy, but you're still sweating. That's one of the key differences between heat exhaustion and
And
heat
it's
stroke.
it's very easy to kind of disregard it, especially if you're visiting here, if you're new to Florida, or you've just come in. It's very easy to just say, oh, you know what, I'm just trying to get acclimated. But those are things to really kind of tune into and make sure. And especially, I think in our previous slide, right, our babies, our kids, our
Yeah.
elderly, please don't disregard it, because it can come and get you.
Yeah,
It's Florida love for you. It's there to embrace you. This
oh yes, that humidity comes and puts its arms right around you. That's
Sure
the
does.
and you want to be sure that if you are starting to feel that, right, you got to get
Mhm.
moved into a cool place. Wear nice loose clothing. That's a staple here in Florida. You
Oh
want to
yeah.
make sure that you're hydrating and get that water. When we talk about hydration, one of
Mhm.
the things a lot of people don't realize is you need to hydrate consistently when you're
Yes.
here. Don't wait until you're thirsty,
That's
because it's
key.
most people drink when they're thirsty. If you're thirsty, it's
Mhm.
already too late. Your body's
Exactly.
already starting to experience dehydration, right, Sister Joy?
That's correct. And then even be careful with what you're hydrating with, because I'm a huge coffee fan. I love
Oh
coffee.
man.
I love tea, but guys, these things are, the medical term, right? It's a diuretic. So you have to be careful. H2O water is your best friend. Let it be your
Yep.
best friend while you're
Yeah,
here.
you are going to lose a lot of fluid if you're drinking coffee or things that are highly caffeinated, because your body's losing all of that moisture, which is what's going to keep you cool. So you want to make sure you're seeking medical attention. Now, if it gets to a heat stroke, key thing to look out for, especially for your loved ones, because if you're the one suffering it, you're probably not recognizing that that's what's happening. But
Yeah.
if you're suffering from a heat stroke, people usually have a high body temperature mimicking a fever, right?
Mhm.
So not just because of the heat, they're
Mhm.
going to be confused, little altered mental state because they've literally now their brains are just kind of
Yeah.
misfiring.
Mhm.
And one of the things is, of course, if they lose consciousness, it's the worst. But one of the key indicators to distinguish between heat exhaustion and heat stroke is that if you are suffering a heat stroke, you are no longer sweating. Your body is going to be dry. It's going to be clammy. You may have still some
Scary.
sweating, but your skin is going to be flushed. And that is
Mhm.
very, very highly likely. And as you can see, Sister Audrey hydrating. She's taking our advice, continuing to hydrate.
Habit.
But you want to make sure that you're doing that because at that point, if you're suffering a heat stroke or suspect a heat stroke, call 911 and get that person cooled down, right?
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
talk about cooling. When we talk about cooling your body, again, we don't want to get too much into the medical thing of it, but when you're cooling, your neck is a great place to cool because that's a cooling center of your body. Forehead, wrists, any place that you could check a pulse is essentially a cooling center of your body. So these are the places you want to cool first
Really,
with a
really
damp
good.
cool tower, right? And
Very good.
that's why you see people walk around with these things. And you see them walk around with these neck fans, right?
The headphones.
We were talking about this
Oh,
because neck fans, right? It's a cool accessory, and you walk around and people think you're listening to music, but you're actually
I
keeping
really
them.
thought that, and I'm flow grown, guys. When I saw that, I'm like, why are the headphones belong on the ears?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you could do that with these things too, but then you don't really hear anything except the buzzing noise of the fan. So, neck fans are a great thing to use when you're walking around because they keep the neck, which is a cooling center of your body, nice and cool. Now, let's jump back in and look at some other tips. The humidity effects, again, when it's high moisture outside,
Mhm.
because of humidity, the air, as Sister Audrey mentioned, is so thick that you can't breathe. That
Yeah.
also means your skin can't breathe. That
Mhm.
means that your skin isn't able to evaporate all of that heat because the air is just so thick. It's preventing you from doing that. So
Mhm.
be cautious about humidity. And then, like you mentioned, let's keep an eye out for our little ones, right? Our babies and our elderly and folks that are out there because, especially if they're not able to communicate what they're feeling, got to
Yeah.
keep an eye on them.
They'll
Okay.
communicate in maybe a different way, right?
Yeah, yeah, the screaming, the crying, and the
Yeah.
constant discomfort. So that's, and I'm talking about the adults that's doing it. Now, when you're going to plan your routine, if you're here and you're visiting us from Florida, your best times to be outside are usually
Mhm.
around if we're going to put time to it, we're going to say between 10 a.m. Before 10 a.m. I mean, or after 4 p.m.
Yes.
Now, as you guys know, I ride fairly regularly. And on my bike, the group that I ride with, we will not go out after 10 o'clock
Oh,
in the
yeah.
morning to ride. In fact, we usually ride right at around sunrise because by 8 o'clock, 8:30, it's
Yeah.
already starting to heat up. And you want to be sure that you're outside before 10 a.m., doing whatever you want to do, and then schedule activities maybe after 4. And remember, in the summer, the days get longer,
It's true.
right?
That's true.
The days
I
get
think
longer.
that's really good to know too, because even when it comes to like with watering restrictions for our grass, we're
Mhm.
not supposed to water. Well, not supposed to. We were advised not to water after 10 o'clock.
That's
I mean,
right.
the summer months. And so just these same hours are I mean, even for our grass, I mean, think about that. I mean, like if for we as people, right?
Mhm.
Nothing
The
after 10.
grass
Yeah,
the grass
nothing
don't
after 10.
like it. If
No,
if
they
the grass
don't.
don't like it,
So yeah,
and
good to
it's
know. Good to know.
well, and that's usually because they want you to not really waste the watering, because if you're
Yes.
watering anything after 10 a.m., it's just immediately going to evaporate
Yes.
because of the heat. Like the sun just sucks it right up. So
Exactly.
you want to be sure you're doing your activities
Mhm.
either before 10 in the morning or after
Mhm.
4, and make sure you give yourself enough rest and recovery time.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, if you're coming down here, you're going to go to an amusement park, you're going to spend the whole day there. Usually if you've got like a multi-day pass, or
Mhm.
you go in and out of the park, give yourselves a break, and
Yes.
then go back in the evening
There you
when the sun goes down. You can watch all the fireworks and the
Mhm.
light shows and all the
Oh,
things, the
even that
activities that
includes
are.
water parks too.
Yeah, yeah.
That can be easy, yeah,
Yeah,
including
even with water parks, I mean, just because it's a water park doesn't mean that being out in the middle at 1 o'clock
Yes.
in the afternoon is a smart idea.
No,
So,
and you do still need to hydrate.
right, right, and make sure that you're adapting, and watch any chores that you're scheduling. If you're doing any midday activities, make sure that those midday activities are taking place probably indoors,
Mhm.
someplace where it's nice and cool, where your body gets the opportunity to cool down. When we talk about hydration and nutrition, hydration basics, and we just talked about this, right? Making sure that you drink often. Don't wait till you're thirsty, right?
Correct.
Just
Mhm.
like we saw Sister Audrey just chugging that water down. You want to be sure that you're drinking consistently throughout the day, just to be sure that you are nicely hydrated. Avoid, of course, alcohol, caffeine, because these are things that are diuretics. They pull out the ability for your body to cool down. Add
Mhm.
electrolytes. Add electrolytes.
Mhm.
When you're doing exercise, they sell them in these little tablets that are these like electrolyte tablets that you could take and you can
Mhm.
drop into your water. A lot of them are flavored, and a lot of athletes will use it. But even if you're just walking around the park, because remember, your body's losing all of those electrolytes every time it sweats, and
Mhm.
replenishing those electrolytes are key. So
Mhm.
doing that and supplementing it with just these electrolyte tablets would be a great way to do it. And eat light.
Yeah.
When you eat heavy, your body goes into what do you call it's metabolic state. I'm a loss for
So
words. I must be
easy
suffering.
though. Here in Florida, we have such great
Yes.
food,
I know. I must be suffering from heat exhaustion. I can't remember.
It's food coma. Like,
Yes, yes. No, but when you think about it, if you're eating heavy and your body now starts to, because we've all had this before when we go to one of these like Brazilian buffets, right? And we
oh,
suffer the meat sweats.
oh man, all you can eat.
So
Yes.
that's your body's metabolism trying to process all that food. So the heavier you eat, the more your engine is going to run to try to
Mhm.
process and digest that food, which generates heat, right?
Mhm.
It's a normal thing. When the engine's running, it's generating heat. So eat light, especially if it's super hot outside, and then save the big meal for when you're back inside where it's nice and cool.
Mhm.
But and limit the use of oven use as much as you can.
Yeah.
I think many Filipino households have what they call a dirty kitchen, which is an
Yeah.
outdoor kitchen anyway.
Mhm.
So kind of dissipate and keep that heat outside. But if you don't, then try to minimize the use of that. Use that air fryer. Those air fryers,
Oh
they don't
man,
generate any heat, but that way you can still get that nice, you know,
crispy. Yeah.
nice
Oh
crispy
yeah.
fried, feels like it's fried kind of taste without having to generate all the heat in the house.
Yeah.
The next is, of course, your clothing options,
Mhm.
and of course,
Mhm.
uh, you want things that are lightweight, right?
Mhm.
Very breathable. These are shirts that are often used by people who go fishing, right?
Mhm.
Makes me feel like a fisherman when I'm wearing this shirt. Um, Even though
Brother
I
Billy is a
couldn't
huge
fish.
fan of those type. It has a
Yeah,
vent. There's like vent.
they have air conditioning.
I know,
The coolest thing
built-in
ever.
air conditioning. There you go.
I have built-in air conditioning sitting here as I walk around, so I don't have to worry about feeling as if I've exhausted myself. So one of the things that you could do is obviously then take lightweight clothing, breathable fabrics like linen and cotton. And I've never really understood why linen and cotton is such a thing. Why is linen and cotton something that you can use?
Because
It's
they're it's a loose weave. Well, specifically for linen. Linen's a loose weave, so it's not super tight knit, so it's breathable in that sense. Cotton, I mean, yes, it's a great material for clothes because it's more common and it's more affordable. I just prefer linen because I don't like the feeling of like heavy clothing material on me, and
Mm.
especially when like you're sweating because of the humidity. And I sweat pretty easily. So it's not a comfortable feeling. I recently I've a lot of athletic shorts.
Mhm.
It's gonna be on the pricier end, but bamboo has been a really great material because it doesn't, not only is it breathable,
Mhm.
but it doesn't retain like body odor because some other like
Really?
uh yeah, some other blends of clothing, like for athletic wear, like I know rayon and like this jersey material is really
Yeah.
common, but um that can retain your body odor when you're sweating, and even no matter how many times you wash it, no matter how many times you've
Yeah.
soaked it in vinegar and baking soda, it'll for whatever reason still retain that, if it's not like if it's cotton or that other blend. But
Wow. This is
bamboo
like
does.
confession time because I'm like, man, is it me?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's bamboo's
Wow.
been a really great. I've only heard of it becoming more accessible and popular recently. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure it's been around for a while, but it's a really great fabric to wear in the summer months
Mm.
because you're not gonna have that sticky, like stuck to your body feeling. Because so you definitely want to avoid like, well, obviously you want to avoid velvet or wool or
Oh my, yes.
yeah, so
Leather.
don't wear any of those nylon or polyester clothing either because they'll trap heat as opposed to
Mhm.
uh breathing allowing it to breathe.
Oh, wow. Good. That's a good tip. I'm gonna look into that though. Good to
Yeah,
know.
especially if you're because the summer months are active, right? Because it's
Mhm.
warmer, there's more activities to do, the sun's gonna be out often. So you want to be out and about and you want to enjoy that time, especially if it's water park season. But you don't, excuse me, you don't want to be uncomfortable either.
Mhm.
So I just
I totally
dress
agree.
dress smart. Like there's a way to style it up and look smart. And smart in the sense where, you look put together, you look collected without suffering in the heat.
Yes. I mean, please, we can all do ourselves a favor.
Are you saying it's possible to actually be comfortable and look good at the same time?
Yes,
It's very possible.
absolutely. Very
I think
possible.
I think I need some fashion advice because everything that I wear to stay cool, Sister Lulu says, just makes me look like an old fisherman. So,
Yeah, you don't need to look like an old fisherman who doesn't know how to use a fishing pole.
hey,
We eat the fish, right?
Right.
I know how to use a fishing pole.
It's okay.
The
You
fish, the
really
fish
can
just
go
doesn't
out
know how
there.
to find the hook. That's all. I know how to use the pole. The fish just can't find the hook.
It's the
So,
fish's
so
problem. Maybe it's too hot for them.
it is,
The weather's
yeah. They only come out in the springtime. But when we talk about accessories, we obviously hats, big accessory down here in Florida. A lot of people walking around with those big wide brim hats and um,
They're
they look
huge. Try to get
they look
all
like
the shade from them.
exactly. You can shade like 3 or 4 people under some of those hats. You just
There
get
are some
underneath.
hats that are wider than the circumference of the human being
I know.
wearing them. And I'm just like, how do you know how to pass through doors comfortably? Or if you're gonna walk down the aisle of a grocery store and not knock something off the
Mhm.
shelves.
That's called a full body coverage is what that hat is. So
No kidding.
now, when
Wow.
other accessories, of course, UV rated sunglasses are important because the ultraviolet rays from the sun here, even if it's cloudy, a lot of people don't realize just because there's clouds and you can't see the sun doesn't mean you're not going to burn, right? From our former lifeguard there, Sister Audrey,
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
right?
Sunscreen, always, 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 always.
Yes.
And sunscreen, I think, is definitely, I mean, for the little ones, but
Oh, yeah.
for those of us with less than fair skin, is that the most politically correct way to say it? If we have less than fair skin, we still do definitely need to
Yes.
put on that SPF 5000 or whatever we can find out there. Do they make that?
I'm pretty sure they have it somewhere here in
I've
Florida.
seen some people who like look like they need it because they
Well,
look like
even if you have darker pigmentation, I still highly recommend sunscreen because I mean the sun, as beautiful as it is here in Florida, it's an aging agent. Like it, I mean that extra heat on your skin, that protection. I mean, you'll age pretty quick.
I mean, the vitamin
Oh.
D is great, but you also have to protect yourself. Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Yes.
All things. And then, of course, I'd already demonstrated other accessories. We need to be able to use the trusty neck fan, right? Keep yourselves cool so your neck stays cool. I see people walking around with these fans all the time now.
Yes.
You know, these little portable USB powered
They all look
fans.
like mics or headphones. That's what it looks
Yeah,
like.
so I look like I'm actually DJing
Yes.
someplace when I'm doing this. I've got both the headphones and the microphone going, but these are great because they could fit in your pocket. Some of them are so small, and they're essentially they look like they're bladeless. You know, they so that way you don't have the danger of like getting your fingers caught in them or anything. But they're pretty powerful. I'm
Yeah,
shocked at how powerful these things are.
they help.
And
Some of them come with a flashlight.
yeah,
Ooh.
in case you get caught in the dark.
If
There you go.
lose power.
You still need to be cooled off even when when
It's
the
dark,
sun goes
right?
down.
Well, and
How
you
powerful
have
our Florida sun is.
you have a flashlight in case you need to find your fan, but if the flashlight's on your fan, I guess it defeats the purpose. But you've got these, and then you've got cooling towels. A lot of people, don't sleep on the cooling towels, folks, because these things I think are really really cool. They if you
No
whip them,
pun intended.
right?
Cool.
Yeah, they are very cool. Oh, that was a pun intended. You take these and what you do is you dip these in water, and when you drop them in water and you wring them out, right? And because it's got moisture in it, it's going to help to remove the heat when you put it around your neck. And these things will last a while. I mean, they don't. The material is such that they'll actually retain that cooling effect for a good 15-20 minutes or more. So you wear this. I mean, look, we were talking earlier about you can still stay cool and look fashionable. I think, Sister Audrey, what do you
No,
think?
you're on point. The fisherman shirt.
Am I looking pretty cool with the fisherman shirt and the trying to stay as cool as I can?
I think so. Very Florida. Very
Yeah, I can't lie, but I won't. I'll say nothing.
I have to take that off, or else Sister Lulu's not going to let me walk around outside in public later.
Going to the chat, Sister Amor B, she said that model, is it Modal? Am I saying
Modal Fabric? Yes.
Ooh, tell us about that.
That's a really great fabric too. So it's beach synthetic. It's from like the cellulose of like beach trees or beach plants. Also a really nice. It tends to be pricey too, just because you don't really see it a whole lot in like a wide market. Or like,
how do you say this word? Modal, like that?
So yeah, that's how I've heard it.
Okay,
Modal?
Not wrong.
Modal.
The only downside is that
Modal.
that's the only downside to it. It shrinks pretty easily.
Oh,
so very delicate to handle, which is probably why it's not a super widely accessible fabric.
Ooh, but
so, wash it like normal, but hang dry.
I think that would be really really nice if you could make a shirt out of that material for men, but obviously it would need to be made 2 sizes larger to take into account when it shrinks. That actually happens. That's been happening to so many of my clothes lately. I've got to figure out what I'm doing wrong because they all seem to be shrinking.
But linen is the same way. Linen will shrink too if you put it on high heat in the dryer. But the key is really, I mean, and this kind of goes into a little bit of research on it. It's whoever's designing because there's a certain way that you can cut the fabric so that it doesn't
Ooh,
look distorted or shrunken. So if
to
it's
the
coming
detail.
if it's coming from a reliable manufacturer, again, you're going to be kind of paying for that. If it's coming from a reliable manufacturer, it's going to last you a lifetime with care, good care.
With
but
care. Exactly, with care. It can't be the dryer or okay.
yes, it's another child in the house to take.
It is, yeah.
Another thing to look out for. And of course, when you're out swimming, or if you're just walking around, and it may seem counterintuitive, but wearing these long sleeve, I don't know, what do you call these things?
Rash
They,
guards.
is it a rash guard? And
Mhm.
I'm guessing surfers used coin that term, right? Because of
Yes.
it preventing a
Well,
body rash.
let me not sound so confident. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's very common for surfers to wear them, or just like
For swimming.
babies.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say my kids when they were small, that's what we put on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the material in these things. Like you would think they're long sleeves, so why would you want to wear this outside? I mean, super breathable, right?
Mhm.
So the material is super breathable. When they get wet, they dry off really, really quick. So that
Mhm.
way, obviously, you don't feel it sticking to your body. And these are great for being out in the water. If you're out on the beach, if you're out
On
of
the
the
beach.
pool, you can definitely protect your skin from being impacted by all that heat and that sun that's out there. And then of course umbrellas, the number one
Yeah.
hack for 90% of the Asian population
Oh,
is
yeah.
umbrellas.
Umbrellas, definitely number one. I do have a story to
Umbrellas.
tell y'all. I mean, umbrellas are it's a staple, right? Especially if you live here in Florida, and
Yep.
it's coming from an Asian household. Excuse me. So, how about my family and I? This is including my mom and my dad. Okay, they're in the elderly category now, and we go to theme parks, right? Because theme parks are here. So my dad's in a wheelchair, and how about he builds some kind of contraption with a PVC piping to insert his umbrella on onto his wheelchair, and we're at a theme park. And so,
We
we're talking about the hats being like wider than the circumference, right? Than the human body.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
the payong is like a picnic table. Like this is not the
like
umbrella.
like one of those things that you see outside of a restaurant, right? Those big umbrellas in a patio
And
umbrellas is
you
what they
know,
call them.
Sister Joy, as soon as you said PVC pipe, I didn't need you to describe what it looked like because I saw it already. I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Can you imagine going down? I mean, in a theme park, and you're pushing my dad around, and I mean, it's wonderful when you're underneath it, but then
Well,
you're going through a crowd, and they're like,
Crowds are
just think
tough.
about it. You
Yeah.
never lose them.
no,
You'll never
it's
lose them.
definitely not. Definitely.
You'll see them. You look for the wheelchair with the 25-foot umbrella.
And it is like
Um,
looking from there.
well, and that's where Filipinos were known for being pretty, ingenious. So
There you go.
I'm putting that in that same category. But
Resourceful is the word.
Very
and
resourceful.
resourceful, yes. And be sure to know that here, because we do have, remember we talked about the summer storms, right? We get summer storms here. In fact, this has been a textbook summer so far, here in Tampa, at least for this past week and a half. Every afternoon that we've had those afternoon thunderstorms that we talk about, that are very characteristic of being here in Florida. But the rule is, at least that I found, is if you carry an umbrella with you, it will not rain.
It will not rain. There you go.
If you carry an umbrella with you, you will put to shame every weathercaster meteorologist out there. But the minute you leave your umbrella in the car, it's going to downpour on you.
It's funny because my kids have this theory that if their dad, if my husband, if Brother Billy washes his car, it will rain.
It will rain. Yeah.
They're like, Dad, please don't wash your car. We don't want it to rain today. And they're
Well, but it's so true though. It is. All right, let's take a quick look here at some tips for staying cool at home. Okay, so if you choose to stay at home, trying to avoid that sun and trying to avoid all of that heat outside, which, of course, we're going to encourage you to go out and get yourself some activity. Don't stay
Yeah.
indoors. But
Mhm.
some tips, in Florida, what's funny? I was talking to friends. In fact, our executive producer, Brother Manley, I think we were talking about this with him, that in many of the places in San Francisco, they don't have air conditioning.
That blows my
Is
mind.
it? Was that? Yeah, that was that
My
conversation.
Florida
Or
mind.
people
Whoa.
who live in like Washington State, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest generally, and like in the greater San Francisco area. And please correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of the homes there don't have air conditioning because it really wasn't necessary. And I mean, I know it's cool. I can't imagine living in a place that didn't have air conditioning.
That's the impact of Florida love for you.
Yeah,
Because,
I
yeah,
think
if you walk into a Florida home without AC,
walk
you
right
can
back out.
smell it first. you
True.
you smell it first before you feel it.
You can smile from outside. You're like, wait.
Correct.
No, but I can't understand why they would not have air conditioning. When you told us that, I was like, "Come on, you're joking." 'Cause
You're like, stop pulling our leg here. This
It's
yeah,
is
it's
exactly.
another world.
this is
Apparently,
what
apparently
planet
in the Pacific
is
Northwest
this?
of San
You
Francisco,
couldn't possibly live in the same country if that were the
without
case.
air conditioning. Come on. So, and if you're in Florida, there is no self-respecting Floridian that doesn't have some form of air conditioning in their home,
Yes.
whether it's homemade, which we're going to talk about here in a second, or it's an actual like proper air conditioning unit. But if you do have an AC unit, though, don't neglect them. And I found this out myself just a week ago. You got to take care of those units, right? It doesn't matter how new they are. Our home is relatively new. We had it built 5 years ago. So it's a relatively new air conditioning unit, but still,
Yeah.
the summers here are so brutal. You've got to take care of them. And here are just a couple of quick tips about what you should do, specifically here in Florida. One is every air conditioning unit has a filter, right?
Mhm.
So if you have two units, you're going to have two filters to change, etc. Any central air conditioning unit has to have the filter changed. And on average, they say it's got to be between 1 to 3 months, right? I've
Yes.
talked to people who say, I haven't changed my air conditioning filter in like 6 months or
Eek.
a year. And then I asked them, I said, so when was the last time you had to call for repair?
Eek.
Because
Yeah. So you got to change
you,
that filter. Ooh,
that
yeah.
filter's got to be swapped. And you know what I do is every time I put a new filter in, when I stick the filter inside, because if you do it every month, then it's easy for you to remember,
Yeah.
right? And the filters are anywhere depending on the quality of the filter that you're getting. They've got some really inexpensive ones that you could buy at the big box stores. You buy them in a pack of 8 for like $30. But they're fairly inexpensive. And
Yeah.
if you buy the cheaper ones, then this be committed to changing them every month.
Mhm.
It's like a 30-second swap
It
to do
is.
it. And
Mhm.
it's so worth it because not only are you filtering the air so that way the air you and your family are breathing is cleaner, but it's
Mhm.
also going to extend the life of your air
Yeah.
conditioning unit. And it's also going to allow that air to flow more freely so it actually feels cooler. You
Yeah.
could literally tell the difference.
Oh, you
Um,
totally can. And
but
one tip I got from one of our AC guys was that when you get the filters, you don't have to get, I don't even know what the number is. Like when they give you the really thick one.
HEPA, something,
You have you can get, I guess, those, but it's like the really, really thick. There's a number on there, and the
hmm
thicker the number, and I think it goes all the way to like 15. You can be careful of those things because what it does is because the airflow doesn't, it tells you it'll filter everything. You don't want it to filter everything because you want the air to flow. That's why it's an air filter, and then it'll just make your HVAC work a little harder. So you just got to be careful. I don't know what the number is. I know I'm not being as helpful. I think there's like a
Well,
number.
it's they call it the MERV
Is
number.
it the MERV
Right.
number?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the MERV, minimum efficiency reporting value number. And apparently there's a rating that goes from 1 up to 20. And the higher the number, like you said,
Mhm.
the better the filtration, but that also means the more that it's filtering, right? I think that's what you're getting at. So
Yes,
if it's
exactly.
filtering, it's letting less come through, which also means that there's less air throughput as well.
Yeah, and it means
So
that then your HVAC is working harder.
Over time. Exactly.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
oh my goodness, look, we have a guest that popped in because
What a
he must
surprise.
he
Yes.
must have heard me talk about the fact that there's this rumor, it may be an urban legend, that in San Francisco there's no air conditioning units. Is that true, Brother Manley?
Please tell us.
Good morning, INC Radio, Florida.
Good morning.
Yes, and I couldn't help it because and I sent a message saying you're gonna make me want to log in to
I
work.
baited him. I baited him to join us.
Once you lived in Florida, the Florida doesn't escape
That's
you.
what
No,
blows
no,
my
it
mind.
doesn't.
You're from Florida.
There you go.
You
Look, the
came from
fisherman shirt
Florida.
worked. It's the fisherman shirt. You bait and you hooked him in.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, that is absolutely true. Here in the Bay
Wow.
Area, here in San Francisco, um, if you live a little bit further down the Bay Area, of course, there will be some ACs, some households that have ACs. But if you live in the peninsula, which is the San Francisco area, Daly City,
Mhm.
Burlingame, a little bit of San Mateo, then most of the households, apartment complexes, some houses they do, some don't, but there's no AC. Yes. Um,
Whoa.
i- if
Boy.
you if you
Fan?
want AC, we basically just open the window.
Oh, that kind of made me like sweat a
Oh,
little bit.
I know.
No,
My
see, we
back
can't
is a
do
little.
that here.
Yeah,
You open a window, you're inviting all of the insects.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
Florida
The
right there. Yes.
mosquitoes are coming in. The smells of other things outside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
forget the screen. I mean, even if you had a screen on your window, there's still bugs coming in, right?
Yeah,
correct.
exactly. And if we want to heat up the house in the evening, we just close the window and
Oh
pretty
my
much.
goodness. Talk,
Yeah,
talk, that sounds so primitive. I don't know.
yeah, it is. This is. I've lived in Florida for I don't know how long, but it's been. I could probably honestly say that I am a Floridian, but during summer, this is the only place where I could actually wear a sweater during summer.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
Well, come to my house during the summer because the temperature in this house, it feels like a refrigerator, so I walk around with a sweater on anyway. So
Yeah,
I
the
just
temperature difference from the threshold of the doorway into the foyer is amazing.
just walking in is like instantly you're in Antarctica all of a sudden.
I
Well,
thought I opened the fridge and not the front door.
sorry, that's Sister Lulu. She likes it cool here. So the before Brother Man, I want, since we have Brother Manley here. So if you can hang on for just a couple seconds, come Manley, because I want to show you something about how we build AC units here if we can't afford one. But just one last thing about be sure that you're using a shop vac to clean your drains, because this was a $300 maintenance call versus a $40 shop vac. If you do this routinely every month or at least every 60 days, you clear the drain of all the algae that builds up, because again, with all that humidity, we get a ton of algae that builds up in our drains. If you clear that every month using a shop vac, you're going to save yourself a $250 to $300 repair, having to have a guy come out to do it for you. And I learned this lesson myself. I called the guy. He said it was $300 to come out because he knew that's exactly what was causing my unit to shut off prematurely because it wasn't draining. He said, or you can go run down to the hardware store and buy a shop vac for $40 and do it yourself.
The shop
And that's what
vacs
I
are
did.
pretty cool, though. They're pretty
And
cool.
shop vac you need anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
we get floods here in Florida, so you may end up using it. So that's a hack. If you're in Florida, be sure that you've got a shop vac. Drain your exhaust pipe or your drain line at least once a month or at least once every 2 months. It'll keep it healthy. Pour some vinegar down there, like a small cup of vinegar, to break up all of the algae, and you'll be doing yourself a huge favor. Now, smart hacks, if you don't have air conditioning like they do up there in San Francisco, using wet towels and frozen water jugs behind fans, or my personal favorite is the homemade air conditioning units, right? So, but Kave's laughing, but this is what you do when you need to stay cool. And my personal favorite is the one there on the bottom, the genius who took a styrofoam ice chest, cut out the top, stuck a fan inside, and went and put a PVC pipe as an exhaust and filled it with ice. And that's genius right there. I mean,
PVC piping.
PVC pipe and duct tape solve everything.
There you go. Right
It's,
there.
it's a given. I mean, so is this something
it's
you would use, Kameli, in San Francisco?
it's funny that you mentioned that because there's a guy here um was genius enough to actually market a similar concept at the bottom, the picture at the bottom right.
Mm-hmm.
He calls it a portable AC.
That's what it is.
That's
Oh,
what it is. So basically he's selling this for um
he's selling
yeah,
it?
I
it
can
was
make
okay. It's originally for $200, but for $49.99. So
Paul now.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a device where it's filled with water, okay, and a fan in the middle where the it's spritz the water right through the fan,
Oh,
but
so it's
right,
mist too.
yeah, so right between the mist and the fan, there is a sponge type that you put in the freezer. So soak, we'll put in a freezer and then put it right between the device. So while the water is passing through that soak frozen sponge, it kind of cools you off. And believe it or not, for the weather here, it does work.
For $49.99.
49.99.
That's and if you order now, I will ship you two for the price
No,
of
no,
one.
it's funny that you mentioned that because I got suckered in of if you buy
You
three,
got
Oh
one.
no,
See
no.
him
if you
with one
buy
in every
three,
room.
if you buy three, we'll give it to you for 99.9 each. I'm like,
I mean, let's
Oh
do the
man.
math. How much is a bag of ice? How much
And
is a
in a
sponge?
styrofoam container,
A
so
right?
styrofoam container, correct.
I
Okay.
wish one of the things that there in Florida, those portable house, I mean those houses where you can get ice dispensers and stuff like that. I
Mm.
wanted to put one here because there's not a single place that does that that has that. They sell bag of ice here for $5.99.
Oh
Oh, how many
no.
pounds for a bag of wow.
So I was like, I could make.
That
You
helps
Look at Brother Robert like, hmm.
the
I'm doing the
marketing.
math in my head already. I got I'm trying to figure out how to monetize this.
Yes. Count me in.
Well, and the best thing about this little hack of this little portable AC unit down here is that you could take that because it's so portable. If you have a battery operated fan,
Mhm.
pretty powerful battery operated fan, or even if it's a plug-in, if you have an electric vehicle, you can
There you
plug this into your electric vehicle, right? If it has a vehicle to load feature, and then you can have portable air conditioning with you on the go anywhere you go in Florida.
You
You
don't
know,
even need to go inside your vehicle for the AC.
no, I'm gonna
Oh
be
right. You can just stand outside a bit.
stay outside, be air conditioned, be comfortable. I mean, if you're gonna live in Florida and you're gonna sit outside in the middle of the hot sun, you've got to do it bougie, as bougie as you can,
And
right?
carrying that around. Yes. Totally
Yeah,
bougie.
turning on the AC, turning on the AC in a vehicle here. It's probably once or twice a year. Yeah,
Wow.
so
I'm
it
I'm
was
living in the wrong state.
yeah, it was
I'm
funny
I think.
because
Different world.
when I went down, I drove down to LA for one of our Care for Humanity event, and it was just really hot. It was like almost Florida weather. Actually, it was almost like Florida weather. So I turned on the AC, like, oh, so this is what an AC feels like.
So this is
Oh,
you
wow.
haven't turned it on in so long you forgot where the button was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How does this work?
Well, and so these are some hacks, right? So if you're living in Florida and not every room has AC, these are some hacks. Take a bucket of ice and just put a fan behind it. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend strapping a couple of frozen water bottles to your
Tip
fan.
over.
That looks like an electric hazard waiting to happen.
Yeah. The fire
But
hazard.
so not all hacks recommended here on INC Radio Florida. But you also want to try to stay indoors as much as you can. We
Mhm.
have an abundance of malls in Florida,
We do.
and our malls aren't used for shopping. they're used for cooling.
So true.
Nobody shops at a mall anymore. They go in Florida, they go here to cool off.
That's so true. The shopping
And
centers, indoor shopping centers, yes.
and you'll see a lot of moms, a lot of just older population in their athletic gear, walking, power walking through the malls.
Yeah.
Yeah, exercising inside the mall. It's what better place. I thank you for joining us, Come Manley. It was a pleasure having you as always.
Always a
Next week, if I can bait you on the show again, we will do that. And
You got to wear the shirt.
I do have to wear that shirt. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Have fun.
Thank you. Well, and of course, when we wrap, as we're getting close to wrapping up here, because we are the fastest 60 minutes on radio now, you've got family kid-centered advice. We make sure that we really increase that outdoor time. Don't like throw your poor child out there if they've not spent a lot of time outdoors for the entire. Just go play outside. I know it's 100 degrees, but go play outside. We've got to be sure that we watch out for them. Make sure that you are taking care of them in the stroller. Battery powered fans on strollers. That's a very cool thing, right?
Yeah.
Fans that are more powerful than this, strapped to a stroller. And then using frequent water breaks and SPF 30,000, I think, is that what that is?
We'll need it.
To try to keep yourselves nice and cool. And here's some tips. We actually got some tips from a couple of our viewers that I want to shout out here. Take a dip and then stand under a fan, right? Again, water on your skin, cool air blowing helps to cool you down. A neck fan, only way to go when you're doing gardening. Yes to the fans of the neck fan.
Yes.
And cooling towels, like we mentioned earlier. We've got tons of cooling towels available. We should actually make INCRadio Florida cooling towels.
Let's do it.
Oh, that's
Do you think that's a cool thing? We're gonna start doing it. We're gonna make some INCRadio cooling
that is
towels.
a Florida thing.
Yes. How many of you watching and that are viewing right now?
Florida.
Cooling. Yeah.
Send us a raise your hand emoji if you'd be down for a INCRadio Florida cooling neck towel.
That was great.
Brother Jeff Sullivan's already.
I mean, he's on that.
Yeah.
Is he on it? Did he jump on that one right away?
Sure did. He sure
for
did.
sure. Well, Brother Jeff spends a ton of time outside. When he's not chopping down palm trees in his backyard, he's always a neck fan. Absolutely, shout out to Brother Jeff.
Smoking the best brisket,
best barbecue. That's shout out to the barbecue king there, the barbecue master, Brother Jeff. So we've got also freezing water bottles. We saw that in action in one of our photos that we were looking at here. But do we have some more shout outs you can read there, Sister Audrey, real quick?
Yes. We've got Sister Keith Daphne, who also we love the same brand of shoes. So shout out to Sister Keith Daphne and her hubby for sharing that love of fabrics. But yes, agreed with the bamboo on that. And then we've got all of our ministers' wives and their lovely family logging in and tuning in too. So shout out to Sister Malka Newcomb, Brother Lowell, and Brother LJ as always, as well as Sister Dulce, Carlos, and Sister Ika for logging in as well. So thank you so much all for tuning in. It's good to hear from you all.
Yeah, absolutely. And from the outside of the state of Florida, we have a shout out here to Sister Alyssa Mojica, who is, of course, from our sister station, INCRadio, Washington, D.C., who's going to be coming on next, incidentally. So please stay tuned. Caitlin Bautista, who's coming to us from Central Valley, California, in Bakersfield. So you want to talk about dry heat? Bakersfield, California is where dry heat exists for real. And then, of course, to Mario Oka, who's coming to us from the Philippines. Well, we thank you so much all for joining us this morning on this very, very hot topic that we've got, which is, of course, on how to stay cool. But please be sure to tune in. Coming up next is INCRadio, Washington, D.C., But next week, we've got another fantastic topic for you. But for now, this is Brother Robert Tapalis here in Tampa, Florida, for Sister Audrey there in Tampa, Florida, and also for Sister Joy there in Orlando. We wish you a very happy Saturday. Stay cool, Florida, because it is really, really hot outside. I guess we're staying on.
This is INCRadio, DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.